Hey, film friends, I'm Nick Furman. This is Furman on Film, and it is that time again, my friends. We've reached it, the year end, the top of the mountain. The Oscars are coming, and we need to get together and have our year end video. If you look out across the landscape of this Zoom, you will see a few fallen soldiers. The last couple years, we've had four of us. And now that number is only two. It's like a great Agatha Christie novel. Who knows who will drop next? Um, we want to say one of our number, shout out to Scott Sipling, is not here with us today. He got married this year, so we're going to give him a free pass. Uh, Jason Tripp had some other things going on. You can see him on my pod or on my videos on the Furman on Film channel and such things like Nora and Strange Darling and all sorts of other things. He's with us in spirit today, but I do have we're the original. The original duo is back together from college and beyond. I have the one and only Adam Kline. The Kleiner is here with us today, and he's gonna do it. Between the two of us, hey, you wanted 40 movies, you're getting 20, but they're the best 20, okay, between us. Um, and Kleiner, like you got some rules of engagement for us, right? So how are we gonna do this? You wanna tee up how we're gonna make this magic happen today?
Absolutely. Even with two soldiers and not four, we still have order to maintain,
That's right.
and so we're just gonna quickly zip through it. It'll be a little easier for us, just the two of us going through our list, bouncing off each other,
Yeah.
identifying some overlap where we have some shared likes and but maybe slightly different rankings. That'll be fun. But we'll just start by quickly listing our five honorable mentions, our 15 through 11, and
Yep.
then we'll get into our top 10 of 2024, going back and forth and commenting in the like. So Furman, why don't it's your channel, you're the host, I'm here for you, man, so why don't you tee us off with your five honorable mentions of 2024?
Five HMs, some will say, not to be confused with HNM. So you gave me one sentence. I've already violated that by these three sentences here, but I'm gonna do my best. Okay. Um, my Here we go. Here we go. And whenever there's ties, we'll tee up the other person, right? We'll just say. So my number 15 is a nonagenarians film, Juror Number Two, Clint Eastwood's little courtroom intrigue thriller. We'll talk about again. Number 14, Robert Eggers' Nose. Oh, wait, let me see if I can do the voice. Nosferatu.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad, not bad. So that's number 14, Nosferatu. Can't wait to talk about that one in more detail. Some would say that there's a podcast of the two of us talking about that in a lot of detail. That's very good. Maybe the best thing on the internet, but I don't know who could say.
True.
Um, Number 13, Evil Does Not Exist. Okay, this is Ryosuke Hamaguchi's follow-up to Drive My Car, which was a film from, I can't remember what year. Trip would know if he were here, about 5 years back, I think. And this is a story. Okay, here we go. Real quick. You are a villager, a fishing village in Japan. Gorgeous cinematography. And a glamping site wants to come in and establish a place right on your land. And it's going to screw up the way that they're building is going to screw up your water table and all the things about it. So the film it features like literally two people who are promoters of the glamping site, a conversation of them in the car, and like a town hall where people are just exchanging ideas. It's like just real dialogue, some of the best real dialogue I saw all year. And the final 5 minutes is a total. Did you watch this one, Kleiner?
I
The
did. Yep.
total wall up on the final 5 minutes of this film. I'm still thinking about the implications, what it means, how it's significant, and how evil does not exist may in fact be a misnomer because it seems like evil very acutely does exist. Okay, number 12, The Brutalist. Uh, whew, um, this
Again,
is
we
the
podcasted at length. There is that
Yeah,
reference.
yeah. This is the best 2 hour and 15 minute movie I saw this year. The only problem is that the movie is 3.5 hours long.
That's good.
So
That's good.
yeah. So I think that's my one sentence on that one.
Good.
Third act hijinks that give us problems. And number 11, we are coming back to once again. I cannot believe that this is higher on your list. This is great. I'm excited. It's Love. It's Rose Glass's Love Lies Bleeding.
Perfect. Awesome. That's a pretty honorable mentions.
Yeah, I like that.
Pretty good. All right, let me see if I can zip through my honorable mentions. Number 15 for me, 2024, The First Omen. I needed to mention
Oh,
this
yeah.
film, especially because upon rewatch, I recognized that The First Omen was the scariest movie I saw last year, but also probably the most visually stunning horror film. And even upon rewatch, I was still on the edge of my seat, pushed back by the intensity. That's number 15. Number 14,
Love that one.
Hundreds of Beavers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew you'd be excited about that. Hundreds of Beavers,
Yeah.
a Looney Tunes inspired cinematic miracle, a cartoon come to life, absurdist PG violence that really the whole family should share. This really film is a miracle, and I had to make sure at least someone mentioned it
Yeah.
here in the honorable mentions. That's number 14. Number 13, this was actually a tight race. I did a quick last minute change to make sure I could mention something which was one of the best Canadian films of last year called The King Tide.
Okay.
Number 13 is The King Tide. It's a thrilling work of mythology and mystery. Just a really impressive, small, independent film, but really powerful. And that's The King Tide 13.
Yeah. Good flick.
Number 12 is Alien Romulus.
Oh my gosh, really? Wow.
And that's the reaction I was expecting.
Wow.
And you and Scott and Trip should all know that up until last night, it was in my top 10.
No
So
way.
I let it graciously fall to my honorable mentions to number 12 because I know I'm in the minority, but I really, really love Alien Romulus.
It's a good flick.
I unlike most people, I actually say it's almost a perfect film, but it is a perfect sequel to Alien and a perfect prequel to Aliens. I
Hmm.
just really love what Fede Alvarez did with that film. That's my number 12. And then finally, my number 11, which we'll come back to in a little bit, is Dune 2.
Oh wow.
And it should be noteworthy that out of honor for my brothers, I allowed Dune 2 to fall above Alien Romulus as the best sci-fi of the year. But no, don't Dune 2 is incredible, and we'll come back to that. So that's my honorable mentions, and we'll throw it back to you, Furman, for your number 10 of the year.
Wow, that was good. Okay, so hundreds of beavers, and what was the other one that I mentioned? Two of those. Oh, First Omen. Both of those are 20 to 25 for me, so it's cool.
Yeah.
Like it's you will see that on another list of mine. Good flicks. Okay. My number 10 is this one unique to me? Red Rooms?
I believe no, it's going to come back up.
Gonna come back up. Okay. See, we had these color codings and then people come, people go. Okay. Red Rooms. So I am excited to talk about Pascal Plant's little thriller a la in the class of Fincher, Red Rooms. Very excited. That's my
Yes, we will come back to that. Okay, so for my number 10, the 10 best film of 2024, most objective choice, completely indisputable. Um, Number 10 is The Substance.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The Substance. What can I say about The Substance? This is a film certainly not for everyone. The Substance is a gruesome, graphic, and excessive film in every sense of the word. And I found it to be the funniest and most entertaining satire of 2024.
Hmm.
It's almost unbelievable that Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley would agree to this insightful work of insanity. And again, while there are critics of it, and would some say with either too much, too long, or maybe not enough for how long it is.
Yeah.
The truth is for me that even when I was ready for the film to wrap it up, I couldn't help but be enamored by how gonzo it got. And it became a very memorable experience. And I was just as entertained with it upon rewatch. And I know I'm not alone in the praise for it because it's widely recognized by the Oscars uh, and hopefully this weekend we will see Demi Moore
Demi Moore.
be
Yeah.
awarded Best Actress. So that's my number 10, The Substance. It's not on your list, but what are your comments?
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, do you think Demi Moore is she your top female performance of the year?
It's up there. I haven't really thought about that in term. I mean, I am most excited for to see her win,
Yeah.
but in terms of my own ranking of female performances, I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, like, or of the five anyway. Like you
Yeah, for
like
sure.
Furman and Mikey. Okay. I what do I want to say about this movie? I look, yeah, the stuff that Demi's doing in this movie is insane. Like it's just it's I people like we use the word brave as like
Right.
kind of like all right, but like it is. It's just it's like a full body performance. So I think she's remarkable. And I do really think Corley's got it. Like I really liked her flick Revenge. My thing is like I don't like I kind of like what you were saying about too long, not enough. I don't care how long the movie was, but the film has basically one idea that it's like bludgeoning you over the head with for two
Yeah.
and a half hours. Uh but I will say this about it. I usually like people are always like, I can't wait to rewatch it. And usually I'm like, why would you rewatch a movie when you can watch a million other movies? But this is one I'm interested to see like where I fall on it on a second viewing. Because
Yeah.
it could actually rise. I think I ended up being like the craft was so good it was around 3.5, but it seemed like everybody was either 4.5 or 1.5 on it, kind of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
I
I'll,
sort of
I'll say I was upon rewatch, I was expecting it to drop for me.
yeah,
And I felt myself just completely entertained and enamored. And full credit to Dennis Quaid. Like he
yeah,
really like his insane cartoonish. Again, this is a work of comedic satire. Like
right.
performance is again, I'm smiling, I'm laughing, I'm cringing. It's just effective. It's incredibly effective, but it is not a film that everyone can or will enjoy. So I recognize that as well. So
Also, like no shots to her, but you know, Cronenberg made incredible body horror films in like an hour and 40 minutes. I'm just saying, like, just throwing that out. Like,
all right, Furman, why don't you take it with
okay,
your number nine?
my number nine. I'm excited. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie, and there is a video on the channel on our channel that I did
Yeah.
about it where I praised it at length, and it is going to come up again. And so I'm glad I'm not leading out because I don't totally remember it, but I remember a lot of things about it, and that this is Jeremy Saulnier's Rebel Ridge. So that's my number nine.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. My number nine is a little film that actually surprised me upon rewatch because it went up.
Oh,
I didn't expect it to make my top 10. And when I watched A Real Pain again,
oh, okay.
um, I was just really maybe even more enraptured emotionally than I was even the first time. And talk about a tight film, 90 minutes,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
a really
definitely.
impressive film. So let me just say that A Real Pain, my number nine, we need more films like this.
Yeah,
The best way to describe the narrative, or at least one of the things that really spoke to me, is that the way the story is structured, the way we dive in, dive out, is the isolated link in a chain. It drops us in, takes us out of a moment, a brief season or stretch of time. And as the audience, we're given just enough context with what's going on, at least at first, to enter in. And even at the end, the way it concludes, there's very little resolution. A lot of things are left open ended. A very much honest and ugly slice of life. But it's
yeah,
also hilarious as well as heart wrenching. And while Kieran Culkin is well deserving of the Oscar he's almost guaranteed to win on
yeah.
Sunday, I feel like we've overlooked just how great the performance was from Jesse Eisenberg. And that's probably just because he also wrote and directed it. And it's really, really impressive what he has achieved. But I love his performance in addition to Kieran's performance. Again, slice of life and a rare and tight, honest, raw and honest portrayal. And yeah, really love A Real Pain. That's my number nine.
Yeah, that's a good one, man. I think the thing you said, I don't, yeah, it's not on my list, but I did have it in my top 20. I think um the thing you said is the best thing, which is that like in this incredible like IP sequel happy, like we're always talking about like the lowest indies and then the total tentpole blockbusters, and like the death of the original middle is something I'm like always harping on this on our podcast, and it's like this is that. Like I don't know how much they made this for. I mean, it's not made for much, but it's not a true indie, and it's really well made. Does it do? It doesn't do a ton new, and the characters are sort of your stereotypical or archetypal, but
Right.
it's the interplay of them. I like what you said. It's like the interplay of them which makes it so good, right? It's not just Kieran or just Jesse. It's kind of
Yeah.
both of them, and it is a like chef's kiss on cringeworthy entertainment. Like the whole movie just makes you feel like crap. You're
Yeah.
like pins and needles watching. I love that. Eisenberg says something about Culkin at one point. It's like you make everybody in the room fall in love with you, and then you shit all over them. And I'm like, what? What a great like that is the movie. Like
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
summary. That should just
Yeah.
be the tagline of the film.
Yeah.
Um, I love it. Yeah, no, that's a good pick, man. That's a good one. Okay,
All right. You take the lead on your number eight here.
my number eight. Oh, where are you, my trip? My number eight is the Count of Monte Cristo. That was by was it Alexander Dumas? I'm sorry.
Ridiculous.
I couldn't even get through it. Alexander Dumas. I'm so sorry. It would have been a lot funnier if I could have straight faced that one. Dude, the guy wrote The Count of Monte Cristo and The Three Musketeers, among other things. And they're just like a tremendous works of fiction. So I think it's two of my favorite books ever. I don't think they've ever made a bad adaptation of Count. Did you see this one? Did you get
So, no, I didn't. Sadly, Jason Tripp, our friend, who also had it in his top 10, he was imploring us to watch it. And I will just
Yeah.
say, here, the stupid Canada licensing. I started the movie, and
Yeah.
as the movie started playing, this happens on occasion here in Canada, where it's only released at least at first
Yeah.
in the French language with no English
Oh, no sub.
subtitles. So like I was like 5 minutes in, I was like, I can't
Yeah.
translate this.
Yeah.
I it's anyway, so I missed it sadly, but I'm gonna get to it because I hear and speak to it too because I think a lot of people don't even know this came out and was released. So
Yeah, yeah. So that's the thing. I mean, there's a Count of Monte Cristo that came out in, gosh, I don't even know, man. Like '03 maybe, like
yeah.
a while back. There's been different adaptations. This is like the bottom line is that it's a tremendous story, right? It's about a guy who's wrongfully accused and then has to like sort of build himself up and become a man of manners. And then how does he seek revenge on the people who betrayed him and the inner workings of all of these relationships? So like that kind of stuff, like on its own is just already awesome. But when you put it in this movie, you have gorgeous cinematography. The costume and production design, like what their arraignment is incredible. And then the big thing, I think if Jason were here, he would be saying the cinematography. No, no, I'm sorry. The score in this film is remarkable. Like it's so good. It has like it gave me like vibes of Last of the Mohicans, like just themes that stick with you and hang with you. So, and I don't remember any of the French actors who played some of the lead performances, but they are all like roundly really good. So, I'm really glad I watched it because I've seen the story, I've read the book, but like this adaptation, I don't think a lot of people are talking about it, but it is freaking awesome.
Very cool. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it, and hopefully, our dozen of listeners will, upon your recommendation, queue it up now and
Right,
give
pull
it.
it up, baby.
Yeah.
I watched
All
it all.
right. So that was your number eight,
Mhm.
and my number eight you have mentioned, which I'm grateful that you did.
Oh yeah.
My number eight is Love Lies Bleeding.
Right on.
Um, Once again, Love Lies Bleeding. Similar to something I mentioned a couple spots ago. This is not a film for everyone.
Yeah.
And what I will say is that this is the sort of genre fare that I have to be honest with myself, and that speaks to me in some bizarre way. Sweaty, sexy, erotic noir, body horror, inspired by the greats, by De, De Palma and by Cronenberg, even a little bit of Coen brothers in there. I
Oh,
mean, this film is, again, to make reference to what I said earlier, it's similar to The Substance, but it's better, in my opinion, because Love Lies Bleeding truly, like, I mean, just embodies the greatness of Gonzo and what appeals to me for films that just go for it.
yeah. Yeah.
And again, there's something very distinct about the ethereal aesthetic, the tonal choices.
Yeah.
The perverse humor and hair. Shout out to Ed Harris.
Dude, Ed Harris is so good in
It
this movie.
just it all comes together in an unforgettable and entertaining experience, and I loved it all the more upon rewatch. So that's Love Lies Bleeding. But Nick, you loved it too. So
I did, yeah. Like I'm surprised I was not the highest on it, but yeah. I mean, another great score, but this time it's like Bronski beat and EDM and stuff. Katie O'Brien's performance is just out of this world. But yeah, man, like the seedy noir stuff is so good. The like small town person with a secret. Yeah, you cited Cronenberg. Like A History of Violence is, if you guys are a fan of that Vigo flick, this is in that thing. But again, it's told through the lens of a gay female bodybuilder. So it's like a whole new thing while it's doing old things, and a way that I think is truly great.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I did and then I, no spoilers, but the third act does make a turn. Did you dig it?
Gonzo, this is what I meant, right? Like it embodies it and it goes for it. It
Yeah.
just it trusts it's self-confident,
Yeah.
right? And for me, the way that it layered these hints of something mystical or metaphysical or
Natural, right?
whatever, like
Yeah,
it follows through to the nth
that's
degree.
right.
And again, I'm not surprised if like people it loses some audience members. That's
Sure.
understandable. But for me, I just like it washed over me and just made me smile and delighted.
Yeah, me too, man. I actually dug it too. Because I think it's like the same. I mean, if you can listen to our Brutalist talk for the
Right.
opposite of this, which is
Yes.
like this film
Yes.
followed through the strength of its convictions to the end. And I agree, man. I was like, wait a minute, what? And then I was like, all right, I'm with it. I'm with it.
Absolutely.
Like Saint Maud, Rose Glass's previous film has a similar turn in the third act, and to me, it doesn't work quite as well. This one, I was with because I think it just set its hair on fire and just went for it.
Good. Well put. All right. So yeah, that's my number 8. So we're back to you for your number 7, and you have broken the rules. But you know what? I'm actually don't tell Trip, but I'm actually really happy that you broke the
Hey,
rules
hey.
because you're going to mention, I mean, two great films at
Yes.
number 7, but one that I especially wanted to talk about. So I'm really glad. So you're number 7.
Yeah, fabulous. Yeah, guys, look, I mean, I know I cheated. I put two movies in instead of one, but um this one has a thematic unity in a guy named Bill Shakespeare. Where in the case of Sing Sing, it's King Lear, sorta. And in the case of Ghostlight, it's Romeo and Juliet, more so, but still kind of sorta. So Sing Sing, it's about the rehabilitation through the arts program, which is a real program with real prisoners who are really in this movie playing versions of themselves. And they're putting on this completely crazy play that starts like King Lear and ends up having Cleopatra and all kinds of other crap. And I guess I just want to say a couple of things about it, and then I'll say a couple of things about Ghostlight, and then I want all your feedback too, man. But Coleman Domingo was rightfully honored and awarded for this. I think one of the greatest travesties that I didn't see, tragedy is a strong word in the world today, but is the lack of nomination for Clarence Macklin, because I think Macklin is unreal in Sing Sing. His performance as, is it Divine G or Divine I? I can't remember which one it is. My God, he's so good. And this is a guy who literally graduated through the program. The recidivism of the people who come through this rehabilitation through the arts is like astronomically low. So real life perspectives, all kinds of stuff. It's great. So I can't wait to hear more from you about Sing Sing. Now let me just give a quick contrast. If I had one criticism of Sing Sing, it was that Coleman Domingo was so good. He was almost too good because the guy is like patristic, he's just like stately and a bold and just a great performer. And like he's with all of these non-professional actors. And it's almost like he almost bowls them over. Ghostlight does not have that problem because Ghostlight is a movie about a real life father and daughter, and then uh, Dolly De Leon from Triangle of Sadness, who she's great again, and it's about a construction worker who finds his way, stumbles his way in life's dead ends into a theater troupe, and they're putting on Romeo and Juliet, and he gets involved. And the other side of that is how there's this thing working at the seams. I'm not going to spoil it, but the way that the film trickles in that other stuff with the actual plot and even the tragic ending of Romeo and Juliet is like this is the best movie. Ghostlight is the best movie no one talked about last year, in my opinion. Like total gut, like just gut wrenching, but so powerful. Like the actual power of art, which is all that Sing Sing talks about, like the power of art, the transformative power of art. And it's like Ghostlight just shows you it. So that was me.
Yeah, well put. I mean, and I loved Sing Sing. I sadly didn't have a chance to rewatch it. It didn't make my list, but it is incredible work. And but Ghostlight, like you said, the best film no one was talking about. I think all it takes is for someone to do a 7-day free trial of AMC Plus or something to queue it up. But it really is. I mean, again, both films, but thinking of Ghostlight, like just this film about family grief and finding healing and reconciliation through the arts, for me, like arguably as effective, if not more so, than 2 hours of therapy. Like it's just this incredible work. And Sing Sing, again, incredible film, deeply moving, but it's also explicitly calling these things out, where Ghostlight, it's all entwined in the story of grief that this family, that is also a bit of a mystery because it doesn't tell you everything up front. And it's not till about an hour into you realize how much this family needs the arts and the work of theater for them to address these things within their own lives. So, anyways, but they're both great films. But I'm really glad, especially that you mentioned Ghostlight.
Yeah, you nailed it, man. Like that's what I was saying. It like the reveal is like a drip. It's like a drip of things that gets to you that it collects in a pool, and then eventually you can see yourself in it in like a picture. And that's just not done well, particularly for a movie that probably costs like, I don't know. It looks like it was made on $1 million. Like it's very
Yeah,
low
very
budget.
little. Yep.
Yeah, so no, that's
Good.
all.
Awesome. All right. So you broke the rules at number seven, but we'll accept it because they're both great films.
Good flex.
My number seven you have already mentioned it. And so we get to talk about it. My
Yay.
number seven is Rebel Ridge.
Oh, right on.
Rebel Ridge is a rare work of smart, sharp, and deadly serious genre fare. We can call it a revenge thriller. We can call it a rural noir, whatever it is. I'm just grateful that writer-director Jeremy Saulnier has refused to allow this genre, this style of film, go extinct. Without a doubt, a star-making performance. A star-making performance from Aaron Pierre, a return to form for Don Johnson. I mean, just Rebel Ridge just simultaneously presents a very small story, a very specific and small story of injustice, and yet through the ripples of the narrative, it poignantly portrays greater social disparities. And I can't honestly, the film as a parable, as a synopsis, I just came away from the film just saying, yeah, America is screwed. Like it really like it just was the perfect capture and captation of like what it means of what's the struggles and the tensions and and I couldn't help but compare to a film that neither of us have on our list, but is a good film, Civil War from last year, that threw those narratives and those problems and those prophetic works in your face and very effectively. But I had more to mull over about, again, the injustice and disparities across America through Rebel Ridge, but also while being wildly entertained, right, through genre work. So Rebel Ridge is my number seven, but you also mentioned it earlier and love it.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. I mean, I just how who could make a movie about civil asset forfeiture that just frickin' hums, you know? It just hums like in some of the same ways that Love Lies Bleeding hums. Like there's thriller elements, and then Aaron Pierre is just a star, man, and it's like it's not gunplay, it's like disarmament. Like all the action is
Yeah.
like so cool. And so it's like messing with your brain because Don Johnson is playing like this old town sheriff, like you would have seen in like Hell or High Water or something like Taylor Sheridan-esque. or even his Miami Vice. Like
Right.
he's got
Yeah.
some of these
Playing against type. Yeah.
yeah, he's playing like against type, but then it's not a gunplay because Pierre is about disarming people. So
The action is very subversive, but
yeah, the action is all subversive, and all of the dialogue is like, if you want to criticize this film, it's like super dialogue heavy, and
right.
it gets like in the weeds of civil law,
Right.
but it's all really interesting too. So if you're like on its wavelength, you're just there. And so I dug it, man. I think you nailed it. And I will say, like, I mean, this is a common theme, but I really like the ending of this movie too. Like the final
Yeah.
5 minutes are powerful.
Yeah. Great film, easy to watch on Netflix. So
Right.
that's awesome. All right, so we're back to you for your number 6, and it's been mentioned by me, and you're going to take the lead here. So
Okay. So look, here I just got to give a little tee up for number 6. From 6 to 1. Now, like this is like I'm sure like a video host, podcast host's like trick to do. Like all of them could have been number 1, but like for me, in all honesty, I went back and forth on all 6 of these movies at one point, thinking, is this the best thing or my favorite thing I saw this year? So. Um, like truly, I actually thought about it and thought about what it could mean or what I was trying to make it. You know, list making is about making statements and stuff. So, having said that, the one I chose for number 6, that you chose for number 11, is maybe the best cinematic achievement of the year, and that's Dune 2. So, um, I, I, Dune Part 2. What can I say about this, man? I read Dune when I was younger, and it has long been called, since like Jodorowsky and the studio debacle that was David Lynch's version in the early 80s, like the unadaptable novel. And then this guy, this French Canadian, comes in and just does it. And I had some issues with the first Dune. Those were gone in this one. I thought it was well. That's not totally true. You can watch my video. I have some questions about the way this one goes in the third act, but man, like visual storytelling, on set shooting, like shooting on location, the ways that this guy builds worlds and scapes, it's amazing, man. What do you got to say about it? And it's Denis, dude. He's an animal.
you know what? This might be the only film I watched 3 times
Ooh.
last year. And again, it partially hurt to put it at 11, but I don't know. I don't even understand all the emotions that went into that. But what I will say is that I mean, no one does it like Denis. The accomplishment of Dune 1 and 2 are unmatched. And again, and you know, it is a crying shame of how the Oscars forgot about it
Yeah. Yeah.
this year. But I think one of the greatest achievements of Dune is the tension, the balance or the tension, whatever it is, of scale, the
Mhm.
balance and tension of scale, because obviously the grandiose images, putting humans the size of ants in contrast to what's going on in the action, that's what we initially remember. But for me, upon rewatch, then I realized that in the midst, sewn in between all these grandiose images, are just these micro moments of sound design and action and eye acting, just the close-ups of Shawnee breathing and Paul Atreides, the look he gives as he's giving his messianic speech. Like, it's just really, really moving and stirring, and just the sheer definition of epic. So just an incredible accomplishment in terms of scale, both in small and large. So
Yeah, it's like Ridley. We had a Ridley movie this year, but this one, I don't. He has his own way of doing epic things that with battles and everything. Like he's so in tune with good sci-fi too.
yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right, so Dune 2, that's your number 6.
Yeah, and I'll leave aside my criticisms of Timmy and Zendaya because
Okay.
we're positive vibes today.
All right. Well, then let me keep the positive vibes going with my number 6, which you also, we're just doing a swap here. You mentioned it earlier.
Oh, sweet.
And this one, I have to just say that this is the best Canadian film
Oh, right on.
that
Yeah.
came out last year, and that is Red Rooms.
Red Rooms.
Red Rooms, man. What
Good.
can we say about Red Rooms? This was one I was dying to rewatch and just didn't have the opportunity to rewatch because that second watch I know is going to be really important because
Yeah.
the first watch of Red Rooms is unlike anything I've
Yeah.
seen in a long time. But let me just quickly summarize Red Rooms as this exquisite, disturbing thriller, but it's like delicately detached in the
Yeah.
way that it layers the narrative, layers the mystery. You mentioned him earlier, Pascal Plante, the French Canadian filmmaker,
Yeah.
really just jettisoning himself in terms of his craft and capacity to do this. And I resist to name this because I hate that calling it out or boxing filmmakers in, but obviously the impression and the inspiration of David Fincher on Pascal Plante is undeniable.
Right.
But he really does carve out his own path here,
I agree.
because this is a film that is simultaneously about the depths of darkness that we need to explore in the name of justice, while also exploring the irreversible effects of this isolating society that we increasingly live on, and the damage that has upon the human soul. But maybe most importantly, what both Pascal as a writer and director has achieved, and the incredible performance from Juliette Garipi as our protagonist. The craziest thing about this film is that our protagonist keeps us at arm's length for
Yeah.
almost the entire runtime. And for almost the entire movie, we are really not sure of her motivations.
Right.
And again, like that's something so distinct and so unique and so excellently executed here that again, that's why like this is a film that demands a second viewing just to begin to re-engage and begin to pick apart the main character's motivations here. But the Red Rooms, that's my number 6, but you also love it.
Yeah. I mean, not only do we not know, or not only does she hold us at arm's length about from knowing what her motives are, but we're not even sure if she knows her motives. I think like, and I think that makes for like an extremely powerful work where you're like, is this character so sure of what they want and we don't know it, or do they not even know? I mean, because like the thematic stuff you listed, so good, man. You could say it again. The one thing you said about the isolation of
Yeah.
society, and
Right.
because what I picked up, I mean, that's so true. For me, it's like this sort of voyeuristic nature of like true, like what May December told last year in a completely different film genre, but this idea of like being obsessed with true crime and voyeuristic about murders and like, just look at the documentaries on all the streamers. Like
Yeah.
this is a movie about a character who is that. And also that same character is one thing, and this just speaks to your isolation point, internally, or like who she is when she's like behind closed doors, and
Right.
like who she presents herself as like a model and all this other stuff to the world. So I think like all of that stuff is there too. But
Mhm.
um yeah, it's about like cultural, like you said, being screwed as a nation, like just the cultural obsessions
Yeah.
with dastardly things. The dark web comes in, AI comes in.
Yeah.
It's just a very current reality movie that has something to say and is pregnant with ideas. And yeah, you could pick up like Girl with a Dragon Tattoo or other things, but I do agree, man. Like his vision is there is something distinct about it. Like, I don't know. It's not exactly Fincher. It may be like adjacent or whatever,
Yeah.
but
Which is
he's
great.
doing it
I don't want to, Fincher being one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, I don't want a copycat, but to be
right.
inspired in this way, again, yeah, there's that distinct, what I like to describe as that cold and clinical aesthetic,
Yes.
but that unearths something much, much more. Like that's what Plante has taken and run with it in a very unusual fashion. And again, it's not easy to watch. It is disturbing and dark, but again, very, very powerful. So
Yeah, it's
awesome.
disturbing and dark, but it's not like most of the time the camera doesn't show you the
Right.
crazy, right?
Which
The
again,
camera
it
just
just, and yet the viscerality of it still hits
yeah,
us. Right?
exactly. But I will say this last thing about this. You mentioned First Omen. You and I watched
Mm.
I spend the entire month of October doing Shocktober and watching horror. There's a moment in this film, and I won't spoil it, where there's a look and like a
Mhm.
score, like gong hit that was like truly the most terrified I was of any movie this year.
Mm.
Like it was like 3 seconds, and I was just like, oh my
Yeah.
God, because it's one of those like true realizations of who the person you were wondering if they are who they are. Like,
Right.
and you get it. It's powerful. Anyway, so great flick, man. Like again, that could have been number one. Like I don't,
Right.
it
Yeah,
was
yeah, I
so.
hear you, man.
All right.
Yeah, and honestly, if I had had the time to rewatch it, I honestly don't know where it would have landed, but
Yeah, it
it's
was good enough to be a top three film. I think that's what we're saying.
yeah, okay, man. We are in our top five. We are in our
Oh,
top five, and you kind of stand alone on this one.
I do.
Well, I mean, at least in terms of our list making. So I'm sure I'll have some comments, but I want you to take the lead here because this is your number five. So go for it.
Yeah, before Jason bailed, my speech for my number five, four, and three was going to be that this is the part where I get a little angry because movies which I've been ringing bells for and standing for and saying are great, I'm the only one that had them on my list. So, shocking. But my number five is Honora. So, Honora. Now, I think you like this one better than Trip did. So this is a movie that's just grown on me. And okay, just real quick, let me just lay this out for you. Sean Baker, this guy, the thing about him is that he goes to a place and he tells you a specific story in that place, whether it's the excerpts of Orlando and the Florida Project or the halcyon days of sort of rural Texas in Red Rocket, and now like Brighton Beach and Coney Island and the sort of Russian area of Brooklyn. No, yeah, New York City. Anyway, like so he's telling you the story. He puts you in this place. He uses non-professional actors. He locates you in, and then he tells you this story. And all of his stories are about the same thing, which is the pursuit of the American dream to an extent, to one extent or less, right? Can a person rise up out of their station and advance? Can they find their peace, their comfort, their happiness? And a lot of times the characters are either in or adjacent to like sex work or that kind of industry where they're just trying to make ends meet. Um, and so that's the setup for Honora. And in this case, you've got Mikey Madison playing essentially a stripper who like just blows the doors off. Like her, that's why I asked you about Demi, because Mikey's performance is unreal in this movie, man. It's like so it's not the physical stuff, dude. It's the facial acting. It's the like pregnant pauses. It's like the stuff behind those eyes. She has like these expressive eyes. Like it's all so good. And so then you go, and then I promise I'm gonna let you have your time here. It's like you get this rise and fall Cinderella story, or no, sorry, you get a rising Cinderella story where she meets a Russian oligarch. Then this madcap second act, which becomes hilarious. Like we're watching Scorsese's After Hours, we're watching chase sequences. Like I don't know what the hell is happening, and then this total calm down, slow down, like the finality of like the gavel of how hard it is to make it in America in this third act, which ends with like my favorite conclusion of the year. So this doesn't work for everyone, this long film that does all these things, but for me, man, whew, it was a powerhouse. It was a powerhouse. So
Yeah.
I loved it.
No, well put. I mean, and it deserves the praise. And again, it's not on my list, like, but it is a great film. And honestly, all I have to say is just that this is everything you had just identified. This is just incredible movie making
Yeah, yeah.
from what it's doing from Act One, Act Two, Act Three, and how it sucker punches you emotionally at the end in the most unexpected way.
Ooh, yeah, it does.
That alone, right? That achievement alone is award worthy. Yeah, again, and I keep saying this because I can't help it, but like it's another movie that's not for everybody. It's graphic and goes wild places, but
True.
again, the heart and the humanity of it is really really profound. But it's also just unexpectedly wild, entertaining, like you said, the second act. So
Did the act movements work for you? Because I think that was Jason's big issue. Like,
Yeah, well, that's funny. We talked briefly in our Brutalist podcast about it,
yeah,
where I would say this by comparison, right? Like this was far more successful in terms of the ebbs and flows of moving from different tonal shifts. It did work for me
yeah. I mean,
compared to others. But anyways, that's great, man.
it is a little long in the tooth, but I think I don't know. It worked for me too.
And it is the front runner. It is the most likely right now to win Best Picture this Sunday. There are others creeping in, maybe, but Anora has the best chance of winning Best Picture. So we'll see what happens on Sunday.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, catch your breath, man, because you'll. I'm just going to mention my number five because you're going to mention it later. But my number five of the year is Challengers.
Oh, right on. Okay.
Challengers. So we will have more to say about that shortly.
Challenge
But
accepted. Okay.
back to you for your number four.
Okay.
Which you are alone on this.
I'm very alone on this. It's like what an island it is to be on this one. My number four is Jane Schoenbrun's I Saw the TV Glow. Of all the videos I made this year, this is going to sound like self-promotion. I think the one I was the most proud of was the I Saw the Glow explainer video I did, because I really do think that this movie is rich thematically and has a lot of breaking it down. So like surface level, why would I want to watch this movie, Nick? Okay. Did you grow up watching Snick? Are You Afraid of the Dark? Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Did you watch Totally Weird? Did you watch any of these movies or shows? Because that's like this movie on the one, like the aesthetic level is all about being in love with a program on TV. Like in the 90s, we didn't have a billion things to watch. So it was like, this is about like finding your people and finding your tribe online, but not online, like in this program to the point where like you so identify it that it almost like starts to blend fact and fiction and reality and fantasy. So that's the one level. And then it's this coming of age story that has all these like truly Lynchian vibes about who our real self is, what our real identity is, and how and how we be comfortable in our own skin. That comes to a head in a conclusion which is remarkable. And then there's all this other third act stuff about dying and raising to life and resurrection of ourselves and our true identities and all these sorts of things. So can I raise the specter of Amelia Perez quickly on this on this video, dude? I mean, when Amelia before Sophia Carla Sofia Gascon's team woefully failed her in eliminating all of her past racist and crazy tweets or whatever it was. Everybody thought Amelia Perez was like that's going to win Best Picture, and it was like this, woke, like, oh, it's so hip to culture and acceptance of differences and all this other yada yadas. Meanwhile, it was a French guy using broadly Mexican stereotypes and presenting a trans story about a guy who, if he could have just been trans, would not have been essentially a cartel killer. There's just all kinds of problematic trans vibes in that story. This story, by contrast, I've read countless people talk about how they identified it as like an incredibly powerful metaphor of the trans experience. And I don't think you have to be trans to feel this idea of like not feeling comfortable in your own skin or going through adolescence and like trying to figure out where you fit in or all of that stuff. I think I Saw the TV Glow. I considered making it number one just because it's such a statement movie that nothing else was like visually this year. And just like one of those that think about that's really powerful. So that's my I Saw the TV Glow rant.
No, that's a great rant. That's very well put and well deserved. I have great admiration and respect for this film, and maybe someday I'll revisit. But for whatever reason, it just didn't totally emotionally captivate me or whatever. But I love, because I will say this: has been consistent throughout the year is people that it did vibe with, like yourself,
Yeah.
who couldn't help but pontificate beautifully at length about the power of that story, which again, that says a lot about a work of art. So
Yeah, and I think you did like the if you and I were doing this video like the dialogue and I saw the TV glow, it'd be like, "Hello, Adam. It is great to see you today." Like it is very wooden, it's deliberately performative, it's slow, and some people will just want to run for the hills when they hear it. So if you hate this film, I get it. I just think that um everything I said is it just
I
recommend.
don't think you. It's honestly, it's hard to imagine hating this film because again, there is so much to love and admire at the very least. Um, anyways,
Yeah.
that's your. I saw the TV glow. That's your number four.
Yeah.
My number four has been mentioned by you earlier, and maybe I said this already, but this is another instance where I am surprised at how high this film is, and upon rewatch, it had a significant, even more significant impact on me, and that's Juror number two.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Juror number two is my number four of the year, and I'll just say that there's a lot of narrative around the release of Juror number two, and the fact that it might be Clint Eastwood's final film. I would say that's kind of besides the point. The
Hmm.
fact that I've been Tony Collette's and Nicholas Holt's biggest fan for 25 years, kind of besides the point,
Yeah.
because the point is that Juror number two is just terrific classical filmmaking with an emotionally evocative, poignant story.
Yeah.
If there was a theme for 2024, I feel like the theme in our lists and our experience has been they don't make them like they used to.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I see that as a theme, at least in my construction of top 15. They don't make them like they used to.
Yeah.
And Juror number two is the maybe the pinnacle of that kind of expression for me this year. But again, like the power of it is the emotional reaction I had to, especially upon rewatch. I mean, it's again, it's classical in the sense that it's a legal mystery thriller. Like it's
Right.
a courtroom drama, and it does all of those things really really well. But it takes things in a direction that goes far beyond any John Grisham novel. And I love John Grisham novels, and I think
Right.
you do too. But where the final act and the final scene of Juror number two goes is really really unexpected, slightly subversive, and emotionally unforgettable. It actually genuinely left me in tears and
Yeah.
left me with a lot to think about. I think there's a lot. This film, in some ways, is so restrained and minimal for the intention of putting a lot into our hands to hopefully work with and work through. And to me, that's what makes it a great work of art, and my number four film of 2024.
Oh man, that's so well said. You know, it's like no, I like everything. I vibe with everything you said there. I think because you're right. I mean, it's like on the surface of the cake, it looks it's like Grisham or the other 90s guy, Scott Turow. Turow. It's
Yeah.
like that kind of thing. And but like this story is far more like morality play than that. Like it like if it were a 90s thriller, there would be like some sort of scintillating sex scandal or, somebody would be like hacking, Tom Cruise would be doing cartwheels in New Orleans in the firm or Hackman or whatever. Like it's not like instead it's asking questions about like what is just, like what is truth, who decides what moral action is in the face of gray, like it's like heavy shit and like really well told. And the whole idea is like the twist isn't what you think, and maybe the twist isn't the point anyway. I mean, yeah, dude, it's like it is fun to think about this one for days. I'm totally with you.
Yep. Awesome. Okay, man. We are now top three, and we each in our top threes we each have one more film where we stand alone, and your number three is this. So
That's
take it away. What's your number three?
okay. I got to think about what your top one of your top threes is standalone. This is fun. Okay. Okay. So look, every year I have to listen to you two yahoos come in and say, I was watching this thing and I was just weeping, like I was just crying, and I'm always like, why am I so dead inside? Like I can't. Why do I not feel this in the depth of me? And then I watched Chris Sanders' The Wild Robot, and I was just like, oh my gosh, dude. I this movie, I Man, look, does it do tons of new stuff? No, it doesn't. It's a story about, look, what it is it's everything I've ever tried to teach any youth or my children. Like anything, everything about found family, about belonging, about staying true to who you are, about finding your people, about maternal figures and their love and protection, about the community at large and respecting nature and just everything. Like it's all right there. Um and then it's got Lupita Nyong'o, one of the best voice performances I've ever heard. Like she's just so good as the robot. The animation is this remarkable. Like Chris Sanders has talked in detail about how he came over from, I don't remember where he was, but I listened to an interview with him. Oh, no, no, here it is. He used to animate for, like he was one of the designers on like The Lion King, Aladdin, like the 90s heyday of Disney. So he's trying to capture like some of that essence, but with like new technology. Anyway, he can say it so much better if you listen to some of those interviews, but it's powerfully like just visually rendered. And I just think like the last third of this movie, there's a lot going on. Some would say too much, but like it was just like one thing after another. It just had me, and I'm like crying. And then I had to like stop the movie, and I was working with some students. I had to go like help them with something. I come back, and I'm fine. I turn it back on, and then I'm crying again. I'm just like, what is happening? This is just blowing me away. And I think what it ultimately comes down to, man, like deep down, is that like if you're a kind of person who like your mother is your hero, like me, this movie wants just to have you in shambles, man. Like I was just so I'm sure there's things I'm forgetting that maybe you can tee up. I'm sure if Jason were here, he would call the specter of the far more like critically acclaimed and unique and visionary The Iron Giant, which this film is decidedly not. Um, but I don't care. Like I don't care that it's playing all of these notes because the way it plays it is just so good. And it's funny too. Like it talks about how annoying it can be as a parent and like how frustrating it can be like rearing kids. Like there's little one-liners for grown-ups. It's just, I don't know, man. I literally think I scored this like 4.8 on my video. I just was
Yeah.
like, there was a moment when I was like, the best movie I watched this year was a cartoon. Like, I don't even know what to say. Like, it was,
I honestly thought it might be your number one this year, and I love that because I love this film. This is a great
yeah.
film. This is for me. This is 4 stars.
Mhm.
It you know it just, and I will say like you called out. I mean, the other comparison this year in 2024 is the Oscar nominated Flow
Oh,
and
yeah.
Wild Robot are both Oscar nominated, rightly so, deservingly so. And again, I'm not trying to compare them or talk about them because Flow's not on either of our lists. But again, like just this surprising emotional depth.
Yeah.
And again, what sets Wild Robot apart is that it's distinctly from the parental perspective.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that's fodder
Right.
for humor and great little one-liners and little
Yes.
things. But again, it really creates that emotional resonance. Um, Especially towards the end of the film. And yeah, it's a beautiful film. But I also love that this is the one that really got you weepy and
Yeah.
feeling all the
I know.
feels. I mean, I love it. I'm so glad that you love this film and that you're able to celebrate it. And I'll say too that it may, usually I'm able to get emotionally swept up in films regardless of what I hear about them. But this one was really built up for me, not just because of you, but my 3 kids. And I don't know if I should be hurt or proud, but they went to a movie
That's right.
together without me,
Yeah.
and like I've raised them taking to the movies, and they went off to a movie without me,
Uh,
and they came home raving about it. They came home
oh,
just
wow.
like, "Mom and Dad, you need to see this movie, The Wild Robot. It's very special." And they're like, "Dad, you'll definitely cry." Like, like just like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Anyways, and I did. It's a beautiful film. So that's your number 3, Wild Robot. All right. take a beat, take a breath, take a sip of water, man, because my number three is your number two.
Okay.
So you're going to take the lead here. We thought we were going to have good old Jason Tripp here to take the
And
lead
we're
because
here. We have a one, a two,
it's
and a
his number one. Yeah, it's his number
oh,
one. It's your number two. It's my number three, which is Nickel Boys. So my number three is Nickel Boys. I'll say that. But then let me just toss it to you for your number two.
my number two, guys. Surprise! Spoiler alert! It's Nickel Boy. Okay.
Take it away.
Dang it! I was really hoping Trip would carry the water on this
I
one.
know. Yeah.
Ramel Ross. I listened to an interview. The guy is so freaking sharp.
Brilliant.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna need your help on this one. I guess for me, what's amazing, this film it started with a gimmick I was fearful of. Let's just say that. Like there's a visual, if you're speaking unkindly, you could call it a gimmick. There's a POV thing that's happening in this movie. It's based on a Colson Whitehead novel about that is based itself on a real life school in Florida, the Dozier School, in which many African Americans in the 60s around the Jim Crow era were abused, hurt, and some of them maybe killed and buried. Like just a really dastardly part of history. So it's like, oh, great, we get another one of those stories. Yes, but no. It's like completely unique. The POV that they give you, the first person POV, is remarkable. And then about a third of the way, a half of the way through, it does a little shift on us and does something new. And we're like, what? And then it keeps fast forwarding into the future and giving us a third POV. And we're just like, what? This is crazy. And so I guess my fear about the movie was that the gimmick itself was going to take away from the actual import or impact of the story. And I'm happy to say, obviously, at number two, that it just didn't. Like that, I just thought the conclusions it made about people, about abusive systems, about friendship, and a powerful third act reveal. Um, there are several sequences in this movie after, I'll let you, if you don't mention them, I'll mention them, where I was really just pretty blown away. So, uh, I'm sorry. Ramel Ross described. Do you remember the word he used? It's like sentient viewing, or
Mm,
he does all this stuff where he talks about how like actually real movies, the way they've trained us to watch has screwed us because
right.
that's not how people really watch. Like when you look at something, you don't see everything with your eyes. You see the thing you're focusing on, and the other things blur. And so this movie does that, and it's as much again in what like with Red Rooms, it's as much as what like the perspective of the camera turns away from or ducks under something or looks elsewhere on while something else is going on, that it's as powerful as anything else. So I just, and he called it like sentient perspective,
Yeah.
or there's a word.
And I think in that same interview you're referring to, right? He talks about. I think it's the only moment, the one moment where the camera briefly, just for a split second, breaks
Yeah.
the POV, and it's because of a traumatic event occurring that at least for the way I internalized it was like the equivalent of like a blackout
Oh,
of
interesting.
like
Okay.
a violent repressed memory and trauma, because that was like the camera pulls out, we see the back of the head instead of through the eyes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyways, the whole thing, and the third, like again, another film where I was like, I desperately need to see this again and process the emotions of it, because it so much of it caught me off guard.
Mhm.
And again, and at the same time, I was also guarded about it, like in
Because
the same way with you, where I wasn't
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
But this, I mean, Nickel Boys, and I got to shout out the cinematographer, both Ramel Ross, the writer director, and the cinematographer Yomo Frey.
yeah,
What they achieved is stunning and beautiful, but also historic.
yeah.
And it's not just historic for its own sake, because the impact, all of it, all of these choices are in service to the story of truly immersing us in an empathetic experience. And it's just, uh, it's a triumph. It's also traumatizing, and
That's
it's,
super well said, man. Try
um,
empathetic experience. That's super well.
yeah, it's,
That's what the perspective does. Yeah.
like, I don't know, like, I mean, and a lot of the themes in the historical accounts are actually like I'm very familiar with due to my own work and life,
Yeah.
on the Canadian side. And
Good point.
And,
Yeah.
and so again, I was sort of like, oh, I really hope this still hits me in the right
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
But there's just, I don't know if I've ever, even the best documentaries, I'm not sure that they achieve the same level of achingly authentic, capturing the achingly authentic account like this.
Mm.
And again, it's a shared history in pulling the audience into this shared history that we cannot deny and we have to reckon with and reconcile with.
Mhm.
And but also doing it through the eyes of like 12, 13, 14 year olds for most of the movie. And
Yeah.
so we partake in that childlike innocence that
Yeah.
is beaten
Yeah.
right and
Right.
battered. And then and yeah, the third act and what happens with these children in their adult life,
Right.
it takes a real turn. And that's it's really the third act that I'm very eager to process again, because I need a second time at the very least to process it. So
Well, there's a scene where there's two guys in a bar talking,
yeah.
and it's one of those scenes where like as much as that is actually said, the unspoken things are the powerful things in it, and it's exactly what you just said. It's like two grown-ups who are basically processing things as kids. Like they're still reliving this crap that's happened to them. And that's such a good point, man. When you give it the first person POV, you actually force us to empathize with these characters. We're no longer watching a document of history. We're actually watching real people. And I should say he integrates it, we didn't even say this, with real life footage.
Right.
And it's not like some of it's MLK and some of it's like very, very recognizable stuff from the civil rights era. And some of it's not. Some of it's like, is this a kid that went to the school? Like, why is this kid? It's like a kid picking up a Christmas present, or it's just like it's like a photographer's eye, an artistic vision of an eye, but then you put it into a full-length film, and yet you still end up with these like very emotional conclusions, like you said. So yeah,
Amazing.
just just pretty blown away with it, man.
Yeah, that's Nickel Boys. That's my number three and Nick's number two. Okay. This is the last standalone. With number two, I stand alone. Um, and
To say.
you're racking your brain trying to remember. All right, my number two film of the year. It's only my top two in my own rankings and letterbox ratings. I only had two five-star masterpieces this year, and so my number two is The Bike Riders.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, gotcha.
And again, I kind of stand alone on this, and I recognize that. But here's what I'll say: America is a biker gang.
Yeah,
It kind of is America, and all you need to know about, and maybe we could say about Canada too, but the West. All you need to know about our history, the formation of our country, our nation, society, and our present troubles and tribulations can be found and allegorized here as a biker gang. And for me, that's part of the reason why this was the first five-star masterpiece I encountered in 2024. Even though I'm in the minority, I can't deny the fact that um, the movies of Jeff Nichols, writer director Jeff Nichols, his
yeah,
movies just cast a spell over me. Each and
that's
every
right.
one of them, to different degrees. Almost all of his films, if not all of them, have ended up in my top whatever 10, 15 every time he's released a film. And to me, this is his greatest achievement, The Bike Riders. His movies are magic because they're enigmatic, and yet they're also very much grounded
Mm.
and just in telling very sort of small stories, but again in very parabolic ways that are touching on the larger society and implications. And this is some of the best of that. Because it's exploring both the best and the absolute worst of our human need for belonging. That's what the
Mm.
whole film is about: is belonging, and what we need, how we need belonging, and what we will do to find belonging. What it will drive us to do, what it will drive us to put up with, what we will destroy within ourselves and the lives of others, all for the sake of belonging in a shared communal identity. But on top of all of that, all of these big, heavy themes and ideas, and this is maybe the thing that most people got more so than any of that, is that the movie's just a great hang.
Yeah, it is good.
It's just a vibe, and all of the stuff I'm identifying thematically that hit me and made me think. maybe it kind of missed a lot of people because the predominant thing that does grip you and grab you is just like Easy Rider vibes, like just
Yeah.
the style
Yeah.
of just yeah, it just making it appear very very simple, not unlike the book, the photography book that the film is based upon. It's not based upon a written narrative; it's based upon a photography book and the documented account of this biker gang in the Midwest. But the truth was, to me, for me, it's so much more than just the vibes and the hang. It's about everything that's going on, and everything that is, every aspect of the beauty and the brutal realities of our need for belonging as a species and as a society. So I love the Bike Riders, and it's my number two. And I know you at least respect this film.
No, I do. Yeah, I do. I do. Yeah, it's somewhere in the 20s for me. Like it's like you nailed it. Yeah, I think the film both succeeds because of the fact that it took a picture book and made a movie out of it and made it a hang movie, and fails in that there's not a ton of plot beyond that for me. Um, so I was going to ask you, like, where does this rank in your Nichols ranks? I'm glad you spoke to it because I definitely think you're right. Like you've always been on Nichols wavelengths.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, it is number one because
Sure.
I don't think I've given any of his other films 5 stars.
True.
But the two films, I mean, I think he's only made 5 features, maybe
So
6, but I'm only recalling 5. And the other top two for me are Take Shelter
yeah, Take
and
Shelter's awesome.
Midnight. Oh crap, what's it called? Not Midnight Run. But anyway, the Midnight one with Adam Driver, whatever about the
Oh yeah,
alien kid.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Uh,
that's gonna bother me. Anyways, those are the two that I have on my shelf, and those are the ones that, again, are small stories that you actually can't completely unpack, and so there's just something. Midnight Express, is that what it is? Doesn't matter.
yes, that's what it is, I
Okay,
believe.
so
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, I vibe with
No, Midnight Special. Midnight Special.
Special.
Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry.
I really
Um,
like I liked Mud a lot actually.
Mud is
And
great. Mud is probably his most well known and his biggest crowd pleaser, and I love it as well. But yeah,
Take Shelter's dope. Loving is decent.
Loving. That's what I was forgetting. So 6.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I don't think I've even seen Shotgun Stories to be honest with you.
yeah. No, actually, I haven't, to be honest. So
But that's yeah, that's I was curious about that because that's definitely something. But yeah, it's a good flick, man.
yeah,
It's good. And it's like, dude, it's like it's Hardy Butler and Comer like in their bags too. I mean,
yeah.
like
Incredible performances.
total star performances. Yeah, for sure.
All right,
Okay.
man. We are at the top, if you can
Oh
believe
my
it. We
gosh.
are at number one,
Uh,
and your number one. Actually, this is the joy of it. Your number one, I have mentioned earlier, and my number one, you have mentioned earlier. So why don't you take it away? What is your number one film of 2024?
yeah, okay. So yeah, okay. Just a quick tee up. I tell you guys every year, like I'm always battling between best and favorite. And it seems like my number two and my number one land on that spectrum and flip back and forth. And we've done it a billion times. And obviously, if it's my favorite, it has some of the best qualities, right? But I think I would say, in terms, we already just said, so I won't add anything to it, but probably the best, most artistic vision thing I watched this year was Nickel Boys. But my favorite film, I had to go back to something I have not seen in months, which I'm going to need your help with. I wish I could have rewatched it, but I was scrambling to get as many things watched as possible before this video. The best theatrical experience I had this year was Luca Guadagnino's Challengers. And so that is my number one uh, as of right now. I no, I look, this movie opens, talk about Oscar travesties. This movie opens on this propulsive EDM rollicking Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Like just they took like an EDM four on the floor beat and stuck it in a tennis movie. And then Luca puts cameras and glass underneath and shoots the ball. So he creates this like whole kinetic energy around the game of tennis and then wraps all of that up in romance that is like a threesome, but not. and and really, I think what ultimately I love about Challengers, and then I'll let you speak to it, is my favorite movies from the tens, two of them, Black Swan and Whiplash, are movies about what it takes to be great and how willing are you to go like to the nth degree to reach that thing. And that's Zendaya in this movie. Like she can't do it herself because of a knee injury, which she suffers, but she pulls what are the guys' names? Art and Daniel, I think are their names. Like Mike Weiss' character into that. And then Josh O'Connor's character is represented. He's like the one who constantly is resisting her and refuses to be conquered. And so it just creates these relational dynamics, which is just tremendous writing, tremendous score, tremendous action, sex, tennis, romance, life. It's all just sort of woven together. And I mean, again, it's not like this is not a Nora in terms of what's actually on the screen. It's more about the interplay of relational dynamics, which is something Luca does well.
Yeah.
Um, Final thing I'll say, and then it's all you, is this is the first time, this is going to piss some people off, that I felt like I got it with Zendaya. Where I was like, I mean, everybody was always like, "Oh, she's so amazing," she's MJ and Shawnee from Dune, like I never watched Euphoria. I don't need my drug use for my teenagers, but like I just and I always was like, she's fine. And then I watched this movie and I was like,
Mm.
oh,
Interesting.
okay, she's got it. Like she has something, and it's on full display in this movie. So, Challengers, my number one. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Need to rewatch it, but that's where I'm at.
I'm
Most fun.
so glad you have it number one. It was my number five, but easily could have been higher. Because again, for me, rewatching it, like I was like, oh, this is the most fun I had with a movie this year. Seeing it both in theaters and at home later.
Yeah,
It just and in addition to how great everything you just said about Zendaya, I mean, to me, it's Feist and O'Connor, the
yeah, they're
chemistry between the two dudes, their friendship, and maybe more. Like it just like they're
frenemies.
just so. I mean, I want every buddy movie to be with these two because it's just
Yeah.
they're electric on screen, and two great actors, and just at their height. It's just, I mean, to me also, like it's fun, it's electric, it's all the things, the craft, the style. It's all one step excessive, not over the top kitchen sink excessive in style,
Yeah.
but it's just one or two steps beyond the norm that again maybe pulls you out, or in our case it just makes us laugh and smile and delight in it more. And and for me also, like I love a good melodrama, and that's what this is. This is
Right.
ratcheted up melodrama with
Right.
delicious, dizzying displays
Yes.
of romance and competition.
Yep.
And
Well,
again, it's not a movie you're gonna come away and like process your own life in or something like that. But it's just perfect entertainment, just terrific.
yeah,
So
that's well said. Yeah. I mean, it has some things you can stew on about relationships. But yeah, you're right. It's just it's confection, right?
yeah, yeah, that's great. Awesome. Okay,
Number
that's
one.
your number one. And my number one of the year. My number one, we have already had a very long conversation and previous podcast about. You had listed it in your honorable mentions. And so I just have to, the cat's already out of the bag, but the best film for me in 2024 was Nosferatu.
Those-
Nosferatu, I won't do the voice like you did. You did it better, but and here's the thing too. Let me confess, and to Scott and Jason watching. Listen, I'm as surprised as you guys.
Yeah.
I really didn't expect this to be as big and important to me as it was and is.
Yeah.
And honestly, like part of me kept waiting for a different film to take the top spot, for something again to make me cry just enough to take that top spot.
Yeah.
But for better or worse, the truth is, like, my theatrical experience with Nosferatu this was the pinnacle. This was the most exciting and entertaining experience I had in a movie theater in 2024. Had it twice, and it was just as thrilling the second time. I admired it even more the second time. I'm looking forward to watching it at home. Yeah, Nosferatu. Again, there's a podcast people can click and watch and hear us talk about. But I'll just say this: I mean, I've always been a fan of vampire stories. And as you and our buddies know, like I have a great passion and love for the silent era of film. And while Nosferatu is not a silent film, what Robert Eggers, writer and director Robert Eggers, achieves here is take the greatest elements and work and artistic expressions from those eras and those genres,
Yeah.
and just mash them together in this very tight and carefully constructed story and work of art. And again, the theme for 2024, they don't make them like they used to.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? Like that's the thing. This is the height of it. This is 20, like nutshell. It's the best of the best. Nosferatu is visually sumptuous. There's so much to take in, and I want to pause and just soak in the visual splendor of the cinematography and the craft. But it's also terrifying. It's scary. It's silly. It's entertaining. It's funny. And it's also this wholly contained and complete work of mythology, but also like incredibly historically accurate mythology, as well as some deep, profound theology and provocative moments and thoughts buried into the story. Because really, the story of Nosferatu is a story that reminds us that the origin of evil can only be found in the union we offer it, the way in which we give ourselves over to the darkness.
Yeah.
And that's how it implicates in through our lives and out into the world around us. And that's nothing to me. That's very important to me. But it packages that isolated truth in just incredible craft and artistry. So anyways, people can hear me say more about an earlier podcast, but I know you had it in your top 15. So
Yeah, no, I mean, you nailed it, man. I don't think there's anything I can really add to that. I just think, like, if we talk about filmmaking as transportative, like transporting you into its own place and time, then like I don't know if anything did it more than this movie. I
mhm.
mean, obviously there are other films I liked more this year, but this one was it's pretty much a knockout. And the secret thing that not everyone that sees this will know is like the original is pretty much a knockout too. Like to redo it and freaking still crush it is tough. I mean, that's awesome. So I know some people feel different ways about like Lily Rose Depp's performance or whatever, but I actually thought we both I think feel she was
Yeah.
tremendous, and Skarsgård is obviously awesome, and I mean costume production. I mean like
Yeah, all of it, right? The
oh my
production,
God.
cinematography, the art design, and yeah, and thanks to the Skarsgård, like that's to me, that's one of the most overlooked things is that
Yeah,
we make fun of the voice, or we admire the voice, we love the voice, but again, the performance is something very special
it is.
that
Yeah,
he gives. Yeah, so
great ending, and um yeah, I don't know, just
great.
awesome.
2024, man, it was. I mean, in some ways, it was a mixed bag, but again, it wasn't hard for us to identify at the very least 15 great films,
Yeah.
and a good number of them that we look forward to revisiting. So that's a wrap, man. We are locked and loaded and ready for Sunday in the Oscars, and I'll hand it over to you for the sign off.
Yeah, I guess I'll just conclude with what you said. I mean, I think this would be if I was writing an article about it, which I may or may not be doing for my best of list, I would say I think we were all a little nervous after the writer's strike of what we were going to get this year. And I've counted well over 20, I think, 4-star films. So maybe we didn't get a ton of 5 stars. I'm pretty picky anyway, but to have this many good ones, it's been a hell of a year, and I love that we just got to shout it out. So shout out to Jason and Scott that aren't with us today, but and of course Kleiner, thank you for carrying us through this. We hope all you guys will check these out. Give us your comments about what you like the most. You know, your personal rankings. What did we miss? We'd love to hear about it. International stuff. Give us all of it. For Adam, I am Nick Furman. This is Furman on Film. Stay firm, my friends.